It is time now for Money Power Politics. For months now, the war in Iran has been taking a toll on Americans' wallets. We were just talking about it. But while many families are struggling to fill up their gas tanks and pay for groceries, some traders and big-time investors out there are getting lucky off the war's market chaos. So lucky, in fact, that regulators are starting to take a closer look. According to the Wall Street Journal, the CFTC, or Commodity Futures Trading Commission, is now scrutinizing a flurry of suspicious oil trades made literally moments before the president postponed an attack on Iran's energy infrastructure in late March. Oh, really? They just started looking now? The trades accounted for more than $800 million worth of U.S. and international oil futures. People familiar with the matter said the CFTC is trying to gauge whether an insider with prior knowledge of Trump's change of heart traded on said information or leaked it to someone who could. The nightcap is still here. Okay, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
What's your reaction?
There are no coincidences. You don't get a trade that close to an event that somebody doesn't know about. I've been doing this almost as long as you've been alive. And when people who actually engage in this
practice... That's how he gets invited here.
Look, it is a serious thing. There's no way in which someone did not have inside information in those trades. It's not coincidental. I've known people who have engaged in it, and in the old days, it was done in a much different way. This is as blatant an abuse as I've ever seen. And again, if it looks like, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck. There's no reason to say anything otherwise.
Okay, well, people that are familiar with the investigation have said that some of the firms that were approached by the regulators attributed their trading activity to just a headline that had come out a few minutes before about the White House looking to end the war. This headline came out about 15 minutes before the president's announcement. That's what they're claiming their excuse for this is. How hard is something like this to prove, A? And B, how do we know if the CFTC is really digging into and going after it? Or at the very least, are they just trying to save face because there is so much noise around this from people who say this stinks to the high heavens?
Well, to your first question, it's not that hard at all because of technology. If we were talking about a conversation where it was really trying to track down who was involved and who had their hand in what, without the aid of being able to do forensic, accounting, if you will, and work backwards, that would be a very different conversation. We are not, which then turns to your second question. If the investigation is thorough enough and people are invested in doing their jobs, they will get to the right answers. That's a big if. And we all know that, which is why we're sitting around the table even asking the question.
But people were convicted of insider trading in 1929 or after 1929, the crash, when they were shorting their own stocks. The CEO of some of the banks in New York were doing that. And they found out then, without the technology that we have today, to get those fingerprints and identify who the perpetrators were.
More and more Americans are getting angrier and angrier about the grift and headlines like this. Do we need to hear from Democrats about what their game plan is?
Yes.
When and if they win in November, here's what they are going to do.
And they don't seem to be unified on that either. You had the clip from Chris Van Hollen. I talked to him not too long ago and went around and around about, what kind of assurances do you have from fellow Democrats, from leaders about what something might look like if you all have majorities? And they're all kind of doing this. You have a bunch of squirrels in a bag who can't seem to figure out who is supposed to be leading that charge.
New topic. In a hearing today, lawmakers heard from officials in the gaming and prediction market industries. Both have obviously faced increased scrutiny about their marketing tactics, potential insider trading. But all they've gotten is public scrutiny. While they're getting public scrutiny, their valuations are to the highest of high heavens. They're making a gazillion dollars. Do you actually think that lawmakers are getting any closer to any real thoughtful regulation, right? I did something with Richard Blumenthal just a couple months ago. He said this is a top focus for him, especially what it's doing to young men. We hear all that noise. But Polymarket and Kalshi are anywhere and everywhere. They've got the biggest investors out there. Any conference you go to, they're on the biggest stages with the investment community cheering them on. And what's really behind lawmakers? The investment community donating to their campaigns, much like these companies are donating to their campaigns.
Yeah, no, exactly right. I mean, I think to Lizzie's point, too, that I think Democrats are feeling very complacent about the midterms and not feeling a lot of urgency and don't really necessarily feel like stepping on the toes of the people who are engaged in this stuff. I mean, look, I don't want to be overly blunt here, but essentially we live in a moment in which, from the point at which GameStop stock became this fun thing that people were goofing around with, right? That people now see trading things and gambling as intermingled in the same thing. And Polymarket and Kalshi have been very good at leveraging that, at getting people to give them money.
The world.
100%. Yeah, exactly. And so we see all of these bets and we see how people are making money, these insider trades. I don't think it's a coincidence that we just learned that Donald Trump himself had made 3,600 individual stock trades.
3,700.
My apologies.
That is one every 6.6 minutes of the trading day.
Yeah, right. Like this is the spirit of the economy in the moment. It is this bet on a thing that's going to happen, make some money on it, and if you have to run a hustle to do it, then you have to run a hustle. Like, it seems obvious that this is something that is going to be looked back on in the same way that we look back in the early days of social media as being like, what the hell were we doing? Like, this is that moment, and it is a time for legislators to step up. But no one's ever going to put money on legislators stepping up.
Well, on top of that, listen, every sports league, every news organization, every company that you can find is doing business with them as well. So where is the, pushback going to come from?
It drives me insane to see people who talk about polls also talking about these markets. It's bananas.
And remember, Don Jr., an advisor to both Polymarket and Kalshi. I mean, that is the fact.
And a drone company that's getting a defense contract.
Correct.
Yeah.
While the president is getting a lot of criticism today from some Republican lawmakers, from some voters, one of the biggest names in business talked about the president earlier today and had very nice things. Jeff Bezos. Let's watch.
I'm comparing him to his first term, and I think he is a more mature, more disciplined version of himself than he was in his first term. Trump has lots of good ideas, and he's been right about a lot of things. You have to give him credit where credit is due.
Wow. Jeff Bezos is not singular. He's one of many CEOs that are courting Donald Trump. It's worked for him in the last 12 months. It's very, very different from the position he was in with Donald Trump in Donald Trump's first term. But what's your take on this?
I'm not
Donald
sure that
Trump
I would
more
go
disciplined.
More disciplined if you can just look at the posts that are coming out in the middle of the night.
Or that we're 10 weeks into a war?
Yeah. With no particular strategy or one that seems to change every single day.
It just takes such an immense amount of courage to praise a president when you're a government contractor and you are living off taxpayer dollars and you have $240 billion in the bank.
And you want to be a
bigger
right, and you do not want to be taxed any more than you currently are. I don't know. It's mind-boggling to me that someone who is presumably as independent and free in a certain sense of any kind of constraints even bothers to make those types of comments.
And you would like the contracts that SpaceX has, that you are very aware of those.
Yeah.
So Bezos also dismissed any fears of an AI bubble. We know that OpenAI is now sort of turbocharging their plans to IPO. Just last night, we were talking about SpaceX, which could end up with this gargantuan IPO, making Elon Musk just mind-blowingly wealthier. Put all of that together with Jeff Bezos' comments today, and what are your concerns? How high is your level of concern about our divided economy, our disconnected economy, and the rage on one side? Because while I totally appreciate that, hey, these are business guys and they want to court the president because it works for them, if we continue to divide this much, they might have the president on their side. We could lose capitalism over this.
I mean, the wealth gap is so wide now, it's unfathomable. Once SpaceX goes public, and it's likely to have a $2 trillion valuation, that will be the largest valuation put on a company since Saudi Aramco, and it'll be even more than Saudi Aramco. And so Elon Musk will be a trillionaire, right? For the first time in history, somebody will be a trillionaire. We couldn't 20 years ago fathom being a billionaire. He's going to be a trillionaire. And so I think, when you look also at Anthropic's going to go public with at least a $300 billion valuation. OpenAI may have a $1 trillion valuation if and when it goes public. It looks like it's going to file soon.
Well, we might be facing a global food crisis.
Correct. And so, again, this wealth gap both domestically and globally, is extraordinary. And look, I know NVIDIA blew their numbers out the doors today, and it was a great earnings report, revenues, profits, everything. I still think that within a year or two, we will find out that a large degree of this was very much a bubble, and it will burst one day when the Fed raises interest rates, when somebody misses numbers. We'll have, I don't know if we do a full 1999 style event, but something adverse will happen in the financial markets.
Can I make a very quick point?
Really quick.
People at home, this is a millimeter. If you have 1 million of those, like imagine that's $1, 1 million of those is a kilometer. If you have as much money as Elon Musk is worth, you have enough millimeters to go on the Artemis mission to the back of the